I have Dr. Jaskaran Singh with me, who recently matched into psychiatry residency in the US. And I am gonna discuss whatever helped him in his application so that, we all can learn from him. Congratulations, Jaskaran. You just recently matched into residency. How do you feel?
I want to say that it was a lovely Monday evening, received an email, and so I'm relaxed, relieved, and also like 3 years of that hard work came to an end, and it was on a good.
Yeah, I literally feel you because I remember talking to you the day you matched, and I could hear from your voice how relieved you're feeling after like going through with the journey for so long. So tell me a little bit about yourself and your journey so that we can know you a little better.
So I am from Government Medical College Patiala, that is
Mhm.
in Punjab, India. So I graduated in April 2022. Actually, interesting part is at that time I was doing PLAB. So I completed my PLAB exam, but like there were some circumstances that led me to USMLE. In early May, I gave my step one exam, and I was doing simultaneously a job as well during that time. I gave my step two in around April next year. After that, I came to United States, did my USCE at some programs and also in a clinic. And
Mhm.
along with that, I gave my step three and then came back to India, applied to match in September, finally received that email in March.
That is amazing. So you started your match journey after you graduated. Amazing. And then what were the things that made you choose USMLE and not PLAB? And PLAB is for the UK, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
So
why?
I got a once I was about to give my plan one, there was some like inner signal that I don't want to do this. I want to pursue my USMLE journey. I didn't knew how to how to start with USMLE at that time. Did I started my USMLE journey, but while starting, I promised myself that there will be like no distractions this time and no nothing. That's why I gave my all steps within my all the steps were in like 1 year and 3 months. That was my step one, step two, and step three. May 2023, April 2024, and August 2024. These were, and along with my USC.
Like now coming to your USCE, that is US clinical experience, how many did you have and what kind of USC did you go for? Because like you've graduated and then you started your journey, so I'm assuming it's only going to be observerships.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Tell me a little bit more about that.
So I had 4 US clinical experiences. Actually, I planned those clinical experiences as soon as I cleared my step one and got my visa. So because I knew that from my friends that getting USC is not easier. So I booked my or I applied to I did a lot of cold emailing. So to fetch a USCE in 2024, I started applying in like June or July 2023. And by November 2023, I booked all my USCEs. One thing I knew that for a good USCE, you should be in a residency program. So I targeted only those institutes who gave USCE plus they had a residency program over there and they keep IMGs over there,
Yeah,
right?
it's a very good thing that you brought up.
So, and also like many of my juniors till now, like after I met, I have received a lot of calls and they ask me like, what kind of USE should we do? I
Mhm.
always say to them, first go for inpatient rotations where they give a residency.
Yeah.
Then, because you will meet a lot of residents over there, which can put a good word for you. They will help you in your personal statement, in your CV. They can give you a lot of suggestions, and also the LORs that you can fetch from those places will be a unique ones, and not the places where everyone goes and fetch like a common LOR from a common LOR writer. I had 4 rotations, and nobody talked about my outpatient rotation. Everyone talked about my inpatient rotations in residency programs in all of my interviews.
Yeah. Also, I do want to point it out that sometimes even rotations in those programs that have a US residency in your specialty, sometimes they are also paid. So it is beneficial if you go for those rotations, even if it's paid, like keeping the payment aside for such rotations, these rotations do give you a lot of chance to collaborate and network with these individuals who are already in a US residency program, and that they can also, give you an interview, and that is going to be so much beneficial to your match process. Coming to that point that you mentioned, that you had all of the USC planned maybe like a couple of months before you started the US clinical experiences, I stand a little bit different. I was trying to get all the right kind of rotations, and I was trying to get it, emailing them, and I was, following up with such programs that I knew that had a residency program associated with them. And I remember getting an email just a month before I start, or like 2, 3 months before I start. So, people who are watching this, I just want to tell you that sometimes you do get these rotations that you want to do beforehand, but even if you don't, keep on trying. Somebody will cancel, or there will be a place that's going to be up there. Things show up, sometimes someone calls in a favor, or you just get that position. So keep on, like, just keep the hustle up is all I want to say. So coming back to you, how much do you think your USCE impacted your match?
It is more important than the scores. Yeah, it is a harsh truth. One of my attending in my rotation asked me if you can write your own LOR, and then I can upload it. I personally went to him and I asked him that, can you please take some time, take a month, no worries, but please you write LOR for me, because the way we will write an LOR and the way they will write an LOR, there is a huge difference.
Yeah.
So that LORs and USCE, I think that is most important thing in your CV, because in their ERA CV, there are 10 experiences. If your first 4 or 5 are USCE plus your volunteer experience, nobody will go beyond that. Nobody has that time to review that CV. One, they will read the first paragraph of your personal statement and decide if they want to go ahead. Second thing, they will see just 3 or 4 of your USCE, like in internal medicine as well.
Mhm.
Everyone has those same USCE. So what unique USCE you have, that, and what unique writers do you have, that makes a difference and that can fetch you an interview. This is what I believe in.
Yeah, like the way your application is presented, because you're right, everyone kind of has, something or the other which is very similar in all of their applications. So, what makes you stand out is something that you need to focus on. But why did you say, Jaskaran, that scores are not important? Why do you have that mindset?
I didn't have a very good score, not a bad one. It was a decent one. Another thing, I know people who had score near 230, and they all match. And also, some people with 250 plus didn't match.
Yeah.
So I know more people who had good amount of USCE with low scores, they got interviews.
Yeah. And these people match too. It's like the whole profile that they look at, and not just the numerical part, which I think is very interesting in the whole US Emily experience. So, coming to research, do you think is research a key factor in matching?
If I say it is not a key factor, then some people who know me will say that you have a lot of publications and you are just saying this. But it is very branch specific. That is true. First of all, the key things in your USMLE journey, and people usually forget during that journey. While preparing for their step one and step two, and also finding their USCE, there will be research, volunteer experiences, and they will go towards that side and they will delay their exam. So
Mhm.
number one priority should be step one, step two, even step three, along with USC. That is most important. Along with that, research, and if you are applying to family medicine,
Hmm.
I'm not saying that research is not important for family medicine, but you can have one or two, and you have decent profile, and you can match in family medicine. For internal medicine, it also goes the same way. Like you can 3, 4, 5 researches. When you come to psychiatry, if you have 5 plus, programs do look at your profile, and
Hmm.
they should be in your branch specific, because psychiatry people like psychiatry researches. That is very important. Family medicine, internal medicine, they can have a mixed amount of researches, no doubt. And For like even if you go to surgery and orthopedics, they need around like 30 papers, 40 papers. So that is way above psychiatry. I had poster presentations, oral presentations, some PubMed researched, published articles, and some were in submission. So overall, it was like around 15. Also, you have done a good amount of research as well. We have like published some papers together. So I think research is important, but first is step one, step two, and step three.
At the time of applying, I had only three researches published, that too from my med school. And those were, none of them were from psychiatry. But you know what? My mentors told me, they were like, but you have a lot of poster presentations, but you are doing a lot of research right now. You have to add all of those experiences in your profile. And once I started to count, I had like 20 something publications, not publications, but like accepted work, presented work, my past publications too. And on when I was interviewing with them, with the programs, I had like one or two papers that got published also. So whatever accepted work is there that you have in your CV, they get published in like, a couple of weeks or something. So all of this process of research and publishing and presenting is going to be very lengthy. So you don't have to be discouraged that, if I'm not at the end point, that is like I don't have a published work, then I don't have a research. No, you do. You do have an experience. You do have some presented work or like an accepted work, or you're doing something. You have to add all of that in your CV, and that will count. For me, I would say that research is important because it comes as collaborating and networking with the right people. It's not just publishing, but it's like networking and collaborating. So it just goes hand in hand, and it kind of plays a role in matching to.
I want to add something to it here that when I was in New York, and luckily the biggest psychiatric conference, that is APA, happened. I didn't know nothing about that conference at that time.
We met at
But
APA, do you remember?
yeah, and we met at it APA. So few of like my seniors told me just go to APA, meet a few people over there, and we went to IAPA conference the same day. So these are the things that are really important. Just attend that conferences.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
Also, what would you say about the fact that some people that I've seen networking or talking to these program directors or associate program directors, residents at these conferences, I've seen that they don't exactly know how to talk. Like they would go up to, nothing wrong with it because we all are desperate in our journey. When we go to such people, how do you start a conversation? What do you usually say, or what did you say?
Firstly, I still remember I talked to five or six program directors that night.
It was a lot.
And yeah, five, six is a lot. But first of all, if I knew someone like a resident, I would ask that resident, can you please introduce me to this program director?
Yeah,
That is a way.
that is.
Or if I know a mentor or that was I know someone at the party, and ask that person to introduce me to that person. If in case no one is there, you just if that person, that program director is usually standing over there and people are talking to, and just go and stand behind and listen what people are talking about. And if the PD is interested in taking questions and talking to you, because they are very busy people, and you have to respect their time as well.
Uh-huh.
So just listen to questions, and if you have another question, you can ask them. And in the last, when they are just about to leave, just tell them, okay, this is who I am, and I'm from, and I will be applying to this math cycle. That's it, nothing else. And don't send them one personal suggestion that one PD gave it to me, that don't send one emails or two emails like before the math season kicks in, because they are very busy people.
How I did was I did the same thing. I knew someone or I met a resident from that IMG friendly program, and I was like, "Can you please introduce me to your program director?" And they would happily do it because they all know that we are applying for like residency spots, and conferences are supposed to be for collaboration and networking, and to like just tell them who you are and Be excited, and the face value matters a lot. When you're emailing, they don't put a face on that email. When you're talking to them, they know who you are. They would know, okay, this is Jaskaran and he is going to apply. Like, do you remember in an interview, it came up that the program director, knew who you are because you met her before. And this really matters. The face value matters a lot when you put, picture to your statement that, hey, I'm so and so and I want to apply. Another thing that I did was I already connected on LinkedIn with these program directors or associate program directors or even chief residents. And I messaged them, hey, I will be attending the conference. Will you be at the conference? And I would love to meet you. Something like that. Be respectful. And a lot of people, they do reply to such messages because you're upfront about it and you're respectful. Okay, let's talk about red flags. What do you think can be red flags in like a mad journey in general? And did you have any of them?
I would just want to list some red flags, but that doesn't mean that you will not match and you can't match.
Yeah.
One of the red flags that is low scores, that is most common and maybe a tip. That doesn't. I have a friend who has an attempt on one of the steps, but uh, the like that friend matched this season. Like we have to improve your other profile as well, right? Another thing, year of graduation. So if you have like a recent year of graduation, 0 year of graduation, and 1 year of graduation, you are like very, very, very safe. And if you have 2 year or 3 year of graduation, you will have interviews. If you come to like under 5 years of graduation, well, eventually they will send you an interview. But after 5 years of graduation, it is little difficult. And lastly, just want to mention a red flag. I don't want to say red flag, but don't have those USC that are very common. We have already talked about it.
Very
Just try
common.
USE that are very common and common letter writers. Everyone is having those. Just try to have your unique USCE. That is like one thing that everyone ignores.
Okay. Um, I do wanted to ask about the programs that you applied to. How many did you apply to?
It was I don't remember the exact number, but it was around 90 to 100 programs,
Okay. And then how many interviews did you get?
between 5 to 10.
And do you want to talk about like what happened in those interviews? Are you comfortable doing that? Okay, so let's talk about interviews. Any memorable, awkward, unexpected experiences during that interview season that you had?
So I want to talk about awkward interview experience.
Hmm.
Bad things first and good things afterwards. So
Definitely.
my first interview was in November, early November, and I still remember I wrote something in my CV and I didn't had an explanation for that thing, like a well rehearsed explanation for that. So there was, that you leave a question in the while preparing an exam, and that question comes in exam. So I prepared everything except for that question, and that question came in, and I was stuck at that moment, and that was a very blank moment with the PD and the APD sitting together, and I knew that I messed up in that interview, and that was my first, and that shattered my confidence a lot.
So,
My
like,
all inter Yeah.
did you answer that question? And, like, how did you answer?
That was a lot of stoppages, and the APD asked me, "We don't get what you are saying." So my confidence completely shattered at that moment. So after that, I had a second interview experience. I prepared well for that second interview. Other interviews were coming in, and so I prepared a lot during those 10-15 days before my third interview. So I prepared a lot with like 10 to 15 people. I wanted to be confident. I gave my one of the interview with one of the chiefs, and it really I banged it. I knew I banged it. It started in English, and luckily that was the most memorable moment for me. I literally gave interview in Punjabi, and we were not talking about anything like, oh, what do you do? No, nothing else. We were talking about Punjab and what is happening here. At that moment, I knew that I have clicked with the PD.
So, like, interviews, if they're conversational, you know that you've clicked with the faculty at that program.
Yeah, yeah.
I do want to ask you, when you prepared for your interviews, what is something that you prepared for the most? Like some part of yourself that you had to work on the most?
Like to say that we speak English, but you can't like now also that I speak little stopping between little bit. So English is not a very strong part of me. People say this is not a weakness, but I consider it one of my weaknesses. You prepare for the interview, then you again interview with someone, they will give you some other feedback. Some feedbacks will be very useful, some feedbacks will not be useful.
I remember when I was also prepping for interviews and I asked my mentor, I was like, tell me what could be an interesting answer to this question. And he was like, Ravleen, you have to ask that to yourself. Like, I can't tell you what's interesting for you because you have to build your own persona and you need to tell your own story in your words. Like, as people who, as applicants, we often strive for being the perfect applicant, being, having amazing answers or like very unique answers, but even answers that resonate with you and reflect in your application and make you connect. Like, even like things about, Punjab, and you were talking to them. They were Punjabis and you were also from Punjab. You guys were talking in Punjabi, made you connect. Maybe like a story that, you told, which was very simple. It made you connect.
Don't give those bookish answers and common ones. Also, don't memorize the stuff. One thing I used to do in my interviews, I used to see in the background what is over there. And one of my, like, luckily, one of the my interviews had a Pokemon on the table. So I asked, I really like your Pokemon, and I am a big fan of Pokemon as well. So literally, we talked about Pokemon.
Um,
And one of my interviews had guitars because he was sitting at his home. So I looked at it. I said, okay, you have a decent amount of like collection of guitars. We had conversation on Diljit Dosanjh
oh
and
God.
yeah, Diljit Dosanjh and some English singers. So this was the conversation, and eventually that ended in such a way.
Yeah, it has to be like conversational for you to know that you're
Yeah,
clicking. Like I understand that part too.
yeah.
It seems like you have had quite a journey, like you've learned along the way. Even in your interview process, you said you learned the things throughout your interview season. The next interview was better than the first one. So some people match and some people don't. And what made you stand out? What is something that you did that made Jaskaran match?
I don't want to say that I did something very differently, but whatever I used to do in a very planned way. So
Mhm.
I think that planning really helped me. USC in 2024 were already booked in 2023. So my friends know this, and you also know this. I want to add this to here that the season started in September 2024.
Yeah,
This
for
the
2025.
2025, right? I planned that I will not match. That is not I will not match, but if I don't match, what I will be doing after that. So in July and August 2024, I prepared myself for the next season.
Yeah.
So that was the one thing that that if on the match day I received that email you didn't match, my rotations were already booked for this year and they are still booked. I have still have to cancel them. So I prepared myself for that. If I don't match, I will cry for 2, 3 days and eventually leave for US because I will go for next season. I will not wait and then see what happens and then go email people, please give me rotations because rotations get booked very earlier. That you have to know and you have to be very planned for everything. So just have a backup plan, prepare for the worst situation, and then act accordingly.
Yeah. So having a plan B and even like a plan C for a journey that is so important to you is not going to let you down, is all you're saying. And I do agree with a part of you. Like, I'm a very different person, but I've known you that you always have had plans to like plan B and plan C as well. And you take the emotion out of your planning process. Like, if you wouldn't have matched, I know that you would have felt bad And then maybe in a couple of hours, not even in a couple of days, you would have been like, okay, this is what I have to do. Take the emotion out and work for it. Now, I'm going to ask you one question that I think even I want to know the answer to. If you could go back, time travel back, what is something that you would change about your application or about yourself as a person?
I should have slept a few more days, a few more nights. I slept very less during those first 3 or 4 months. I told you that I could have slept for some more
Yeah,
nights.
you could have.
Just I started very early in October for preparing. I could have waited for 15th or 20th October for preparing for the interviews. This was the one thing that I could have done and given me some rest. But
Yeah.
that was not the case.
But like the whole, like we are laughing about it right now. But when you're in that interview season after September till like January, you're in a different mindset. If people who are watching this have gone through it, they would only understand what kind of mindset you're, because you worked on your application for months and years, and only a couple of months, like of the interview season, is gonna define your next part of your life. So we've gone through this and we've matched. So we can sit down and talk and laugh about it. But a person who is in that zone, the mindset is very different. You are cruel to yourself, you overthink, you are pessimistic. It's very hard to be positive. So you need to surround yourself with people who's your family, who are like friends who support you and always give you like a positive nudge. I would say disconnect with people who don't support you or make you question yourself. Like even, people who are just your acquaintances, or it could be anyone, just like disconnect from the world because you need all the positivity and it reflects in the interviews. Yeah. So now the last question I have for you is, if someone watching is feeling hopeless about the match, someone watching right now, what would you say to them in one sentence?
In one sentence, it would be very difficult. I
Uh-huh.
just want to say that you don't give up till you get that contract.
Mhm.
You have really worked very hard. No one is different. We are sitting here, we have matched. Go to your next match season until you are not matched. And please don't give up on this journey. You have really, really worked very hard.
Mhm.
And this please help each and everyone because I believe in there is a supreme power over there and that really looks on to you. This is what gives me immense satisfaction. So just be together, help each other, and eventually there will be something good written for you. That's what I want to say.
So believe in yourself and keep going.
Really. Yeah.
There are some questions that people asked me on Instagram. One of the questions was that dual application to specialities. For example, if you're interested in one specialty but you apply for two of them, is it appropriate to do that? Is it beneficial for your application? What do you think?
First of all, it is very a person-specific choice. For psychiatry, you can't dual apply because psychiatrists do know that you have applied in the second in other branch. And, okay, you apply for internal medicine, you can apply to family medicine as well. Like pediatrics people can apply to a internal medicine or a family medicine, but be very cautious because that will dilute your CV as well.
Yeah,
And
yeah. I agree with the point that if you apply to a lot of specialities, your CV will be diluted a little bit, and you can't change your CV for every program. Your ERA CV that you upload remains the same, and they do kind of get an idea that you're applying to more than one specialities. On the contrary, I do have a friend who applied to three different specialities and she matched, but it was her third cycle and she was out there to match somewhere. So it really depends. Coming to the next question, does performance in med school or like a supplemental examination or a failure in an examination in med school specifically for international medical graduates, does it matter?
one or two PDs ask, okay, you had this amount of scores, you had distinctions in your med school, but usually nobody talks about it. So if you think that this is a major reason not to pursue USMLE, please don't follow
That,
this. Yeah, you can easily go for a USMLE.
yeah.
Having a attempt on a step is like more of a thing.
Yeah, in none of my interviews it was ever brought up my med school performance, and it doesn't really people that I've heard about who have matched, none of them have talked about their med school experience being discussed, even if it was like an undervalued or like an under, like there were some failures to address or something. None of them were brought up. Um, that would be the end of our interview. And thank you so much for speaking about your experience and your USMLE match journey. And congratulations again for matching, especially in psychiatry.
Thank you for having me here.
Perfect. Okay. And I hope you learned something from Jaskaran's journey. And obviously, reach out to him if you guys want. I will be tagging him in the caption. And Jaskaran is a very helpful person, I know.
Thank you.